Hello, everybody. I just got to get my screen to share. All right, let's move this. And then I just want to be able to, okay. Okay, cool. All right, so today is day 2 of my free healing retreat. And day 2 is by far one of my favorite days. And day 2 is one of my favorite days. So how my healing retreat is set up, how my coaching is set up, no matter if you're in my group coaching, one-on-one, whatever, but it's all set up. How this healing retreat is set up is how I move people through things. So day 1 was all about the mind, and it was all about self-awareness, right? So self-awareness is the first step, but if you stop at self-awareness, you're not going to get the healing, you're not going to get the transformation, and you're not going to get the change that you want, because self-awareness is just self-awareness. You have to integrate the self-awareness. If you don't integrate the self-awareness doesn't really do much. So day 2, all about the body, which is, all about the body is trauma healing and nervous system regulation. Okay. So like I said, today is my favorite day. So I spent years stuck. I knew that I was meant for more. I knew that my life wasn't supposed to be the way that it was, but I just kept staying stuck. I would read the self-help books, and I would try to make progress and do the to-do list and do everything, but nothing ever changed. So this is where body work changed my life. This is where somatic healing changed my life. This is where trauma healing changed my life. Body work, trauma healing, somatic work let me become the person I was always meant to be. And it let me manifest the life I have always wanted. It let me manifest the life of my wildest dreams. It let me manifest a life that sets my soul on fire. So this is why I'm so passionate about it. I am so passionate about it. This is why I just like scream it to the world, and I want everybody to learn this, because once you learn this, your life will completely fucking change. Okay. So, like I was already saying, 20% mind, 80% body. 20% mind, 80% body. You will hear me say that over and over and over and over again. So 20% mind, that was the self-awareness. That is everything we did yesterday. If you are on TikTok and you want the recording from yesterday and today, go to the link in my bio, put your email in there, and I will send out the recordings after this. So 20% mind, 80% body. So yesterday, like I said, we went over the mind, which is self-awareness. That is only 20% of it. Only 20%. That's why when people are just working, we talked about this yesterday, from the conscious mind, you don't get very far. 80% of it is the body. And like I talked about yesterday, our body and our subconscious mind are connected. And that is where 80% of change happens. That's where 80% of all of our limiting beliefs and automatic response and all of that stuff lives there. So once we can start working at the 80%, that is when things start to change. That is when your life will dramatically start to change. Okay, like I said, self-awareness does not equal healing. Self-awareness does not equal healing. Self-awareness is just the first step to healing. True healing happens at the nervous system level. Like I said, at the body level, at the nervous system level. When we experience an emotion, it is felt at the body. That's why trying to talk our way out of it doesn't work. We have to work at the body. Okay, so let's jump into the nervous system a second. So the nervous system plays a crucial role in our overall health. It's a vital part of our body's communication system, connecting every part of our body to the brain, transmitting signals back and forth, and ensures our body responds appropriately to stimuli, be it responding to an injury by feeling pain or feeling excitement when we see a loved one. So our nervous system is at play all of the time. All of the time. This is why This is why we have to start working at the nervous system level, because if you're just talking about things, it only gets you so far. We have to become aware of, okay, when I am talking about this certain thing, how does my body react? Or when a certain situation happens, how does my body react? Does my chest get tight? Do I get hot? Do I get angry? Right? And there's always body sensations attached to emotions. So once we can start getting connected to that, that's when we can start to process and release it. Okay, so there are two parts of the nervous system, two main parts, which is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So the parasympathetic part of the nervous system is rest and digest. So this is when we relax our body, slowing high energy functions, resting and digesting, lowering the heart rate, lowering oxygen, lowering metabolism, freeze and mobility responses, allowing us to go into shock if we're punctured so we don't bleed to death, and sending us into conservative mode under stress to renew our physiology, which we're going to go into this a little bit more in a minute. So the other side of it is the sympathetic, fight or flight, for preparing the body for intense physical activity, getting up and going, increasing blood to the arms and legs, increasing heart, protecting and defending, exercise, increasing adrenaline. So fight or flight, rest and digest. So our parasympathetic is when we are in a regulated state, unless we get pushed down into it too far, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So the parasympathetic is when our nervous system is regulated. Rest and digest. This is where we want to be most of the time. Sympathetic, fight or flight, is when we get triggered and we get activated and our body goes into a survival state. So the problem is that our nervous systems get stuck in fight or flight from trauma and the inability to regulate ourselves. So we want our nervous system to be in rest and digest the majority of the time in the parasympathetic. The problem is that a lot of us are stuck in a quote unquote trauma response. A lot of us our nervous system is stuck in a constant loop of being dysregulated. And that's not where we want to be. We want to be in a regulated state. Okay, so before we jump into this, before we jump into trauma, before we jump into nervous system regulation, I want to make some notes. One, we all have trauma, every single one of us, no matter how great your life was, we have all experienced some type of trauma. We all see trauma as like this big, huge event that has happened, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just small, minute things that our nervous system didn't have the capacity to handle. Our trauma is not something to be feared at all. I know it's like this big, scary word, but it's not to be feared. Again, it's just our nervous system's capacity to handle or to not handle something. And here's the other thing. You do not have to remember your trauma. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to remember it to work through it or release it. All we have to do is allow our body to do what it needs to do to process and work through that trauma, which I'm going to get into. Okay, so trauma. When we talk about trauma, we often start with a story or a question. What happened during the war? Were you ever molested? Let me tell you about the accident or the rape. Or was anybody in your family a problem drinker? However, trauma is much more than a story about something that happened long ago. The emotions and physical sensations that were imprinted during the trauma are experienced not as memories, but as disrupted physical reactions in the present. So again, this is why body work is 80% of it, because trauma emotions are experienced at the body level. We have to become aware of what sensations am I experiencing? Am I dysregulated? What is happening at the body level when I think about this thing or when I'm stressed out? In contrast with the rational brain, which expresses itself through thoughts, the emotional brain manifests itself in physical reactions. So that could be gut-wrenching, heart pounding, breath becoming fast or shallow, feelings of heartbreak, speaking with an uptight and ready voice, body movements that signify collapse, rage, and defensiveness. So this is how the emotional brain talks to us. It talks to us through our physical sensations. It talks to us to how our body is reacting to something. Do you start to shut down when something happens? Do you get ready to fight when something happens, right? Like that is your emotional's brain way of speaking. The rational executive brain is good at helping us understand where feelings come from. So this is kind of like yesterday, right? The self-awareness part. The executive brain helps us understand where the feelings come from. It's always nice to be like, oh, okay, I am aware that I have these feelings and I am aware that this is where they come from. However, the rational brain cannot abolish emotions, sensations, or thoughts. This is so, so important. Understanding why you feel a certain way does not change how you feel. I have experienced this. I see this in my clients all of the time. Have you ever experienced where you're like, okay, I know that I shouldn't feel this way. I know this happened because of that, but what you know and how you feel are not in aligned. It's like, I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I am feeling this way. That is what this is talking about. Understanding how you feel does not change how you feel. Feelings, again, are felt through the body. I am going to say this 1,010 times so it'll land. Okay, so this little chart is from Trauma to Turn On, but it's going to kind of give you an example of how trauma works, how the body works, and how the nervous system works. So in the middle, there is pleasure, possibility, perspective, and creativity. So this is the center. This is the natural blueprint health of your nervous system. So in this place, you have the ability to feel pleasure, gratitude, possibility, hope, wellness. In this place, you are resourced with creativity, care, glimmer, and zest for life. So basically, this place is when our nervous system is regulated. This place is what I like to call energetic alignment. We're regulated, we're energetic alignment, we're in ease, and we're in flow. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to stay. This is where we want to be all of the time. So how do we get there? So let me move this so I can. Okay. So then surrounding the middle part is this next one. And that's where pain is. So pain both alerts when difficulty is happening and protects us from difficulty increasing by sending signals to the brain to call in physical or emotional backup. Pain can be emotional, physical, energetic, or mental. So pain isn't just like you stubbed your toe and your nervous system is alerting you, hey, we just hurt ourselves. Pain can be emotional, energetic, and also mental, right? So this is where like trauma would come in the sense of like somebody didn't physically hurt you, but on an emotional level, you can feel the pain, right? Okay, so surrounding their pain, there are the causes of pain. So you experience emotions of grief, rage, or shame. When we have the ability, so this is so important. So what can happen, if you can see this chart, let me see. So what can happen is if we have something that signals our pain, we can go here. And the beautiful thing is when you have a nice regulated nervous system, when you know how to work with your nervous system, we can bring ourselves back down into here. So it says when we have the ability to feel, process, and respond to these causes of pain, seeing and sensing our urgency to shift reality, perhaps because the cause of pain isn't too big or too bare, then our alertness subsides, our pain soothes, our defense goes down, and access to the blueprint comes back on. So this is where we want to be. We want to be here most of the time. And then something, like your partner says something mean, or your boss said something, and then we have that pain, or you stub your toe, whatever it is. And then we get this pain signal, and then we go up into these emotions, but we know how to regulate our nervous system, so we bring it back down. That would be ideal. However, when the cause of pain are too intense, violent, overwhelming, or ongoing, this is when we move into hyper or hypoarousal. So hyper and hypoarousal are a dysregulated nervous system. Okay, so unfortunately, so again, this is so important. Unfortunately, this is not a cognitive process. It's an automatic, I need you guys to listen. This is an automatic embodied nervous system response. Again, so this is why I say day 2 is my favorite, because the mind is only 20%. So these are automatic embodied nervous system responses, which is why nervous system healing is so essential. Depending on whether or not our body senses it can win against the threat or violation, our system will first check to see if the hyper response, fight or flight, could work. If not, it opts for freeze. All of this happens in a split second without any rational reasoning. So all of this is happening without the rational reasoning. So when we are triggered, when our nervous system is activated, the prefrontal cortex part of the brain goes offline. And then this is where we go into our automatic responses. Okay? So let me see what the next one is. Yeah, so like I said, the prefrontal cortex part goes off, and the prefrontal cortex part of our brain is forward thinking, problem solving, creation, connection, fun, and play. So can you see why when we are in a dysregulated nervous system, when we are in a trauma loop, this is not beneficial for us, because it's making the forward thinking part, the creative, the fun part of our brain to go offline, and all of these automatic responses are happening. Let's move this back up here. Okay, so I call this like the trauma cycle. So something happens. So this is kind of similar to what we went over, but something happens that triggers a nervous system response. The body doesn't know how to properly process and release it. It's either too much, or it just doesn't know how to properly process and release it. It gets stuck in the body, and then you think it has been dealt with, but in reality, it's just suppressed. And then it happens again. It's just like this whole cycle where what we would want to happen is here, we would want to know how to properly process and release it, so we don't go in the cycle here. It'll just stop here and it'll be released. Okay? So, hello on TikTok. If you guys want the recording of this, I have like a PowerPoint with all of the stuff in it. You can go to my page and click the link there and put your email in, and I'll be sending it out after. Thanks. Okay. So, okay, let's note again that trauma is not always something crazy that happened. It can just be that you lived in a chaotic home, your parents didn't know how to regulate themselves, or something minor affected you. So one of the biggest things that I experienced myself and that I have seen with my clients is that they had parents, most of us had parents, that did not know how to regulate their nervous systems, and then that gets passed down onto you. You don't know how to properly regulate, so you go in and out of dysregulation a lot. Okay. So now I want to talk about the window of tolerance. So the window of tolerance is just basically your nervous system's capacity to deal with things, right? So in this part, in this little box part, again, is where we want to be the majority of the time. This is functional fast, functional medium, functional slow. So again, what happens when we go out of this window of tolerance is we can go up into hyperarousal, which is fight, flight, hypersocialization, hypervigilance. And then if that is too much, we can fall down into the freeze state, which is freeze, depression, chronic illness, chronic pain, shame, collapse, dissociation. So sometimes, like this is what happened to me, and sometimes what I notice is that people are living, or they're living too long up into hyper. I was in a trauma response. I was up in hypervigilant for a long time. And then your body's like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I can't be up here in hyper anymore. And then it flings down to hypo, which is like chronic fatigue, depression, and all of those things. So also be aware of that. So this is what we would call a healthy window of tolerance, a healthy being able to regulate your nervous system. So you wake up and then you rush to get your kids to school on time, and you go out of the window of tolerance just a little bit, and then you just drop back in. You get into a workflow, you're still in the window of tolerance, and you receive hard feedback at work, but you still don't let it knock you down. Take a walk and regroup, and then co-regulate with family at the dinner. So as you can see in this window of tolerance, it is basically in the window, except a little bit here and a little bit here. Now let's look at this next chart. So when someone experiences acute or chronic overwhelm, difficulty, violence, or trauma, it can hinder their capacity to stay within their window of tolerance. They can more easily shoot up into hyperarousal and loop there, or drop down into hypoarousal and stall out there. So this is more of a, this is what we're not going for. You wake up and then you panic, you have to get your kids to school, you go up into hyper, and then you feel defeated and you fall down into hypo, and then you remember you have a deadline and you go up there and then fall down here. So do you see how in this one it's like hyper, hypo, hyper, hypo? And the last one was just a nice, easy flow throughout the day. So again, when you experience acute or chronic overwhelm, difficulty, violence, or trauma, it can hinder the capacity to stay within the window of tolerance. And again, if your parents didn't know how to regulate their emotions, if you grew up in a chaotic home, there's so many things that are quote unquote trauma responses that we don't even realize that are trauma responses. So if you're a perfectionist, if you're high achieving, if you're overworking, disordered eating, hyper independence, like all of those are considered trauma responses, and that's like a hyper trauma response, like you're up here in hypervigilance. And then like hypo is like people pleasing, not procrastinating, all like those types of things. All right, let me grab a drink real quick. Okay, so how do we start coming into more regulation? This is when we drop into the body. We connect with the body, we create safety in the body, and we let the body do its magic. So my favorite thing about dropping into the body, my favorite thing about nervous system regulation, my favorite thing about working with clients is, one, when clients come to me, they don't come to me because they don't have trauma. Most of us are like, I don't really have trauma, I'm fine, whatever. Most of them don't come to me because they know they have some type of nervous system response happening. They come to me because they hate their body. They come to me because they just feel stuck, or like they want to grow and evolve in life. So the cool thing is that once I start helping them work with their nervous system, I create safety in their body. Whatever needs to be brought up, whatever needs to be worked through, it just naturally comes up. I cannot tell you the amount of sessions that I've had where clients were like, well, I didn't know that was going to happen today, or well, that's not what I planned on talking about today. And it just naturally comes up. The body is the healer. The body is so fucking smart. I cannot even express how smart it is. And it will bring up what needs to be processed and released, and it'll just happen, and it's not this scary thing. Also, let's connect. So if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, follow me on Instagram because we can chat and all of the things. Okay, so I'm going to take it off of this, and we are going to go into a little, how do I make this bigger? Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. So I wanted to take you guys through a nervous system practice, through a body practice, just to kind of give you an idea. Because again, a lot of what I've been doing is teaching and talking, which is cool because you guys understanding what is going on is important. But again, the healing happens at the body. So we gotta start dropping down into the body. So the first thing I want you to do is I just want you to sit however feels good for you. And then if it feels good, I want you to just close your eyes for a second and take a couple nice, big, deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more. Now I just want you to scan your body. So examples would be, my jaw feels tight. I have a little bit of a headache. There's a slight tightening in the middle of my back. So I just want you to start scanning your body. Again, a self-awareness. We have to start becoming aware of what's happening at the body level. So is your chest tight? Is your heart racing? Are you hot? Are you cold? Like, what are you experiencing? And just note that for a second. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, this is what I call resourcing. We are going to bring in anything that makes you feel calm, peaceful, regulated, whatever. It could be a person, it could be a thing, it can be whatever. For me, I think about trees. Nature is so regulating. If you can't go outside, you can think about them. I think about trees, or I think about my dogs, or like whatever. I just want you to think about something that would make you feel calm, relaxed, peaceful. And just notice what happens at your body as you think about that. Now, if it feels good, I just want you to like shake your body a little bit. Shake it out. See how I'm making a noise? Shake your body out. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. You can make noise if you want to. Shake it out. I know this all seems very weird. Also, if you're very new to this, I was very resistant to all of this. So, okay, let me back up a second. I was hella disconnected from my body. I was hella hyper arousal. So the thought of slowing down, the thought of connecting to my body felt very threatening. So if that's how you feel, that is totally normal and that is totally okay. It just takes practice. So go ahead and just keep shaking it out. If you want to, you can pat on your body, helping you bring yourself back into your body. Something I'll also do, I'll do a practice like this if I'm like really up in my head. Like if you are like looping, thinking about things in your head all the time, this is a good sign that your nervous system is dysregulated. So if I'm like all up in my head, I'll go outside, I'll put my feet in the grass, I'll do something to move the energy. So go ahead and keep shaking it out. Go ahead and tap your body. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of breathing, a little bit of connecting. So I want you to go in through your mouth and out through your mouth. So we're going to go in through the mouth, out through the mouth. So you can do at whatever pace feels good for you. Two more. Good. In through the nose and hold at the top. And relax. We're going to do that one more time. Out, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So one more. Good. In through the nose, hold at the top. Good. Go ahead and let it out. Go ahead and keep your eyes closed if that feels good for you. I want you to imagine a nice bright white light shining down through the head, all the way down through your body. Just noticing what happens. Then I want you to imagine roots coming up from the ground into the bottom of your legs, your hips, just allowing yourself to root down into the ground. Just allowing yourself to sit with this for a second. Doing any type of body movements that feels good. Yeah, good. So this is just a start. This is just like resourcing. This is just dropping into the body. This is just becoming aware. There's so much more that goes into this, but there's so much magic that happens when you start working with the body level. For years, like, again, like, I healed people pleasing, disordered eating, hyper independence, overachieving, hardworking, and all that stuff. And I read the self help books and nothing did anything because all of those things were my nervous system and hyper arousal. Right. So, no amount of mindset work could get me out of a hyper arousal state. I had to do somatic practices to bring me back into my body, to bring my body back into some calm sense. Okay. So, I hope that makes sense. I hope this was helpful. And then tomorrow, day 3, I love day 3. Day 3 is like where the magic happens. So if you're into like manifestation, if you're like ready to create a fucking life that lights your soul on fire, day 3 is for you. Right? Because like day 2 was like, day 1 is like, okay, it's self-awareness, we're about aware of all of the shit. Day 2 is right, okay, now we have to step into our body and start healing the shit. And then once you do that, day 3 is where the magic happens. Day 3 is like, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling on top of the world, and I am ready to fucking create a life that sets my soul on fire. So I cannot wait for day 2, or yeah, well, day 2 is today. I cannot wait for day 3 tomorrow. And I hope to see you guys there and have an amazing, wonderful